begin.
What up, nation? Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA Wise Stream. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013, and I, of course, am from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed above. 4-game slate. Not a lot has changed since our early look, but definitely interested to get some of you guys' input and see how you guys plan on approaching the slate. If you are new to the channel, welcome. Please subscribe, hit the notifications bell so you're notified whenever we do go live and don't miss any of the free content we put out. NBA, we do 2 shows a day, Monday through Friday, an early look, and of course our flagship show, which is this one right here, the NBA Wise Stream, where we start off with an hour breakdown, game by game, with our projections with yours truly. And then in the second hour, we bring on Paulie D. Sometimes we'll bring on some guests, talk some game theory, lineup construction, and most importantly, keep you guys updated with any late-breaking news. NBA DFS is definitely a reactionary type sport. Got to be able to react to the news we get, even on 4-game slates. In fact, maybe even more so on 4-game slates because the margin of error is so thin in these types of situations. Ownership is so concentrated in these types of situations. So if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit the notifications bell. We are a premium DFS content provider as well as a DFS community designed to help make you a better DFS player. And if you want to take the game to the next level, you can check us out at WiseTake.com. We have articles, cheat sheets, and of course, our projections, which you see on the screen. They don't look like this. This is just a visual I make for you guys to follow along with me as we go game by game so you can see what I'm looking at. But you can download our projections, upload them into whatever optimizer that you use. And we got, like I said, the cheat sheets are kind of tied into these, so we have them ranked in tiers and positions. So go check it out if you want to take a game. But at the very least, you should be subscribing to the YouTube channel because we do the free content here anyway. And if you guys haven't already, please hit that like button, man. The likes go a long way. The likes really help us out, allow us to continue to do the free content, which we like to do. I like talking to y'all. I like hanging out with y'all. So, hang tight, hit the like button if you haven't already. And we would do dirties. We would do dirties all night long. Shout out to Jim Campbell. See you in the chat, man. Eager. I love it, man. I love the enthusiasm. Let's get it. I'm with you. First time on the stream before lock. Let's go. I'm with it, man. I'm glad to have you with me. Anyone who we're always welcome. Always welcome. We never turn people away to the WiseTake Nation. So glad that you could join us for the Wise Stream. So again, 4-game slate. The margin of error is going to be a little more thin, right? Hitting the right chalk, avoiding the bad chalk is even more key on situations like these. Because again, last night, for instance, the slate was so big. There were so many good plays. I had 100% Kevin Porter Jr., who got a 6, and I still managed to win a good chunk of my money back. So I didn't win. It wasn't a profitable night by any means, but I won a lot of my money back considering I had 200 teams with Kevin Porter Jr. in it who really screwed me. But it just kind of goes to show the unfortunate part is had he played a regular dosage, even if he didn't do well, say he at least got me a 25, you can imagine how much better I would have done. Shout out to MG in the YouTube chat clowning around, saying this is his first time too. It is not. MG, OG MG with the WiseTake Nation, been with us for a long time. Funny guy. That's what he is. Funny guy indeed. Let me pop over to the Wise Stream chat to see who is up in here. LD, my man LD, OG LD. Everybody's an OG, man, because y'all been with us for a long time, and we appreciate it, man. We definitely appreciate those who are part of the WiseTake Nation, who are helping us turn this into as a bigger thing as we can get it, right? A community, interactive community. So I'm excited for those of you who are here, those of you who have been here, hanging out with us, those of you who are new, and I'm excited for those who will come at some point. We on the YouTube grind. It's not an easy one, but it's a grind. Glad to see everybody piling in here. All right. Again, it's a 4-game slate, so it's a little, it's a little odd. We have a lot of room to fill. I could have done this show maybe 30 minutes later, but to be honest with you, I figured if people are going to be interactive, I would rather take that extra time to answer some questions, because in the second hour, we try to answer questions, but keep in mind that I'm also playing. We're also doing our teams, myself and Paulie, on top of the additional content at WiseTake.com. I have projections to adjust, all these things. So in that second hour, it's kind of crunch time. So we don't always get a chance to get into the chat as much as we like. So I'd like to take a little bit of extra time here after we finish these games to have a chance to interact with you guys and hear what you guys have to say. I know earlier Jim and I think it was Mike was out there to two newcomers to the show, and they were pointing out Mike Scott, somebody who I did completely overlook. And it's the beauty of having a community. Nobody's perfect. Everybody can improve. I don't care how good you are. Everybody can always improve their game. Let's see what else we got here. Our boy Aaron M. been coming here this week, relatively new to NBA DFS, usually just NFL, and he digs it. Man, hey Aaron, we appreciate you, man. We appreciate taking the time here. It's a beautiful game. It really is a lot of fun, NBA. Obviously, and take it from someone who's those of you who know, I've had a really successful NBA year in general, and you can look me up on the rankings and all that kind of stuff if you want to, Roto Grinders, whatever. But the last week, I've had some of the worst luck, but with injuries, just guys getting hurt. It's one thing to take a stance on a player and just be wrong about it. That kind of stuff happens. And on the one argument, you could say, why are you going so heavy on one player if you're doing MME? Because I'm trying to get first in some big ass contests, so I want to make sure I have a core that hits, a core that's solid. With that said, I realize that I am taking on a lot of risk, and I'm putting myself in a position to where things like this, injuries happen, and it puts me in a bad situation. However, we've been able to looking laughing at MG. Talking about he been in for 45 years. Love it. I don't know who is doing it. I'm only 31, so I don't know who is doing it with you, but I love it. My dad played DFS. His dad played DFS. I love it, MG. His dad's dad DFS. I love it. Oh, Jim. Okay, Jim. So you used to watch us a few years ago with Cash. Man, yeah, he was great, man. We had a lot of fun. We had a lot of fun with Cash, man. Good times. Unfortunately, he had to step away. He's got other obligations that are important, man. It's his life. So, we appreciate the time he spent with us, the moments we had, but we move forward, and we always will. But going back to you, Aaron, I think that it's a great sport, and even going back to what I was saying about taking all that risk, doing 200 teams, I'm trying to get as many combinations as I can with the right guys. Now, me deciding who the right guys are, we rely a lot on the projections, which is why I do these shows, so I can closely pay attention to who's projecting for what and why. But NBA DFS is a wild ride, man. It's a lot of fun. I've had a really successful season. However, like I said, the last week I've had some of the worst luck, and that's going to happen. Variance, right? Kevin Porter Jr. playing 6 minutes and getting hurt. Jakob Poeltl playing 4 minutes and getting hurt. He finally started. That stuff is going to happen. And unfortunately for me, it all kind of happened concentrated within 1 week. But I got to admit, because of the MME process, because of making sure we're on the other plays that are good enough, I haven't really lost as much as you would think, considering how bad of luck I've had. I know on Twitter, you follow me on Twitter, you're going to see me complain. That's my venting source. You know what I'm saying? I use it for other things too, but a big purpose of me on my Twitter is I vent. And I've tried to be better. I used to write some really hurtful shit on there and, overreact to things, but trying my best to not, I just want to be positive. I want to get positive energy. I want positive energy back. It helps, man. All that stuff goes a long way. Karma, all that stuff. And karma works in mysterious ways. You know what I mean? Shout out to Chris the Tree, says, just FYI, I'm number 10 on the like train. There we go. I like it, man. Top 10. That's the top 10 right there. Appreciate you. Appreciate all you who have already hit the like button as we wait for some more people to pile in. MG says, Cash lives on in the hearts. He's probably driving around right now yelling at someone. Absolutely. That's his thing. Who you cutting off? Not me. Infamous Cash quote. Not me. Loved it. Juice, what's up, Juice? Good to see you, Juice. Always good to see Juice, man. I like seeing your name in here, man, because that means, it makes me motivated when I see the same people, because I'm not the only one who's grinding this every day, right? I got a bunch of soldiers riding with me, so I'm definitely excited. I get excited when I see all y'all. So we're gonna go ahead and start getting into the games as we get some questions as they come up. In between each game, I'll check on the chat. We're not gonna force it. If there's no questions, there's no questions. But in between each game, I'm gonna come check on the chat. Normally we do every 2 or 3 games or so, but I want your input. It's a 4-game slate. Everything matters. So I want everybody's input, and I want to see what we can come up with collectively. All right. First up, we got the Denver Nuggets visiting the Charlotte Hornets. I'm going to pull up the schedule notes article that our boy Jay Irv does. It's a free article over at WiseTake.com. I recommend you guys check it out when you start your research. It's completely free. But what Jay Irv does is he goes through each game and kind of tells you what teams are rested, what teams have had a day off, what teams are on a back-to-back. Today, there's no back-to-backs or nothing like that. There's one team in a 4-6, which we'll talk about later, but it's not a back-to-back, not nearly as hard. And then there's one team that's a little bit more rested than the rest. That team, of course, is the Houston Rockets, but we will get to all that. In the meantime, Denver and Charlotte both working with a day off. They're both in 3 and 5 stretches, which is completely normal in the NBA, so nothing crazy schedule-wise. As far as Vegas goes, We have a 207 total, so it came down from 208, which is the lowest total on the board by far. Denver opened up -10, and it is still currently at -10. I'll do a refresh just to make sure it hasn't changed. Starting off with the road team, as we always do. Looking at Denver, so one thing I noticed about this slate is not a ton of guys project all that well as is. So we're going to have to settle for guys that are like a 5.5, like a Millsap, etc. If you look, I didn't want to be too aggressive with the minutes because Denver is getting a little more healthy, especially with Millsap back. And Millsap's presence has affected Nikola Jokic's usage. Rebounds he could take away. One thing about Jokic, as good as he is, he doesn't need to, he is, I guess you can call him a team player to a degree. He doesn't always just take charge like you would like to see. But this is a smash spot for centers. Definitely a smash spot for Jokic. So if Jokic is going to come in lower owned, and I think I'm going to pull up some ownership projections and just take a look and kind of see where the field is at. But if he's going to come in lower owned, then I'm going to want some. I don't think it's going to take much to get over the field. But obviously the Houston and Clippers game should have a bulk of the ownership, I would imagine. So I do think Jokic will come in low owned. It is a smash spot. However, it's a situation where if you go too heavy on him and you swing and miss, that's going to bite. And the way he is now, I'm probably not going to get a ton of him based off his price projection. Remember, both of these teams play extremely slow, especially Charlotte. They're terrible defensively, but they do play really slow. I think that Jamal Murray could be worth taking some shots on, especially on FanDuel at 6.6. He hasn't been too great on an efficiency basis lately, but he is a player that's going to play big minutes. He played 38 minutes against Golden State, 37 against Toronto. Other than a little 26 in a blowout against the Clippers. Before that, 33 against Detroit, 35 against Minnesota, 38 against OKC. So he consistently plays the minutes. The usage hasn't been as high as we've seen in the past. And again, that could be partially because they're healthy. It could be matchup related. I don't think Golden State, he was just inefficient. 3 for 14 from the field. That's just terrible. 0 for 6 from 3. So Jamal Murray at low ownership, I'm more likely to reach him, I think. I don't think it would take as much to reach him. And to be honest with you, I'm probably a little light on his actual minute projection. So I think I'm going to make an adjustment to that right now. Make some switches here. But he probably should be at least 35. I'll give him 35.5 for now. The one that I'm tempted to jack up a little bit is Will Barton. The price is really low. He's just been bad. Like, there's no other way to put it. He's been bad. And him being bad has kind of led to his minutes coming down, which is obviously not ideal. The price is right. Matchup-wise, we're not worried. This team don't play no defense. He's actually held a higher usage rate than Jamal Murray recently. He did play 35 minutes against Golden State, which was promising. Just on a results basis, it's been low. But at 5'6", I mean, this is a guy that has that 40, 50-point upside, maybe more so when players are out, but there's always a situation where a guy could bounce back. The concern comes from the minutes. 35 against Golden State is great, but before that, 27 against Toronto, 29 against the Clippers. Granted, that was a blowout. 29 against Detroit, 27 against Minnesota. So I don't like seeing him play at less than 30 minutes. That's not a comfortable position to be in. But again, this is a matchup where I don't think they're going to have to worry too much about the defenders between Jamal Murray and Gary Harris. So I think he might get some free reign to actually just play his game. So I am kind of interested. Maybe we will raise him. Even what happens if we go to 30.5? We'll move his minutes to 30.5 and kind of see. It helped. It's not quite there. It looks like he's going to have to be somewhere around 32 for us to really start to get him. But I'm interested, especially if he's going to be low owned, which from what I see, I think he will, because I'm not even seeing his name near the top of projected ownerships. You could always take shots on the blowout guys like Michael Porter Jr., as good as he is. I know Jeremy Grant has been getting a lot of minutes with Millsap there. That makes me a little uncomfortable. You could take stabs at Gary Harris. I don't know what happened to Gary Harris, but he used to be decent. I mean, he's still, I'm sure, a good role player, but he used to be a little more than that. I'm very surprised to see him take a big step back. But it's mainly Jamal Murray. I don't mind Paul Millsap. And then the Barton Jokic decision is something that we have to consider. But I'll see what you guys say in a second. But I think I am going to raise Barton to 31 for now. Again, I want some, and this is a slate where not a lot of guys are going to project through the roof. So it's not going to be too hard, I don't think, to get some of these other players in there. On the Charlotte side, Devontae Graham figures to be somewhat popular. I mean, his price is extremely low. He projects really well for us on DraftKings, and I was conservative with his minutes. Put him at 32 because he was projecting just too high at a typical 33. Denver is a fairly good defensive team. Graham has missed some time. I think Graham is technically still questionable, right? Or has he been ruled? I'll check right now. I'll check on our Slack chat, the injury feed, and I'll let y'all know in a second. I didn't see none come up with his name, but I know that we have a list of the players who are questionable today. Yeah, Devontae Graham's still questionable. So if he's out, that could change things a little bit. It'll make Terry Rozier a little more attractive. It'll make Miles Bridges more attractive. It'll make PJ Washington a little bit more attractive. So the surrounding players will get a boost. I think that Cody Martin would be in line for bigger minutes. I don't love his price, but he would probably get bigger minutes. So a situation to keep an eye on. Cody Zeller and Bismack have been alternating who starts. Hernan Gomez is still finding ways to work in. So on a slate like this at 3,800 on DraftKings, he's a high pumping minute guy. If you think this game gets ugly and blows out, he's the mop-up guy. So there's some different ways to go if you really want to try to get different on this slate. We got a projection for 18 minutes, and 21.41 is not a bad projection for a guy getting that little minutes. He's just a really high pumping minute average type player. But, really, if Graham is in, it's probably just him. I'm not terribly interested in the rest. Like I said, Denver does also play slow, and Denver is actually a pretty good defensive team, or at least for the most part they are. Let's keep it rolling. I'm going to pop in the chat. Let's switch to this next game real quick, and then I'll pop in the chat. Marquee game coming up. Clippers-Houston. Right? Clippers-Houston. Let's pop in here. Demo Snoopy says, good luck tonight. Yo, you too, man. I like it. I like the positive vibes we got here. Z3L says, I've been leaning towards Zubac. Well, we're going to talk about that in a second. Our boy Jameis says, if he's been bad and losing minutes, who's been getting those minutes? Will Barton, I'm assuming you're talking to, right? Why don't we look into it? I'll look into it right now. I like the questions. We could dig into this. So what's the most recent game that we have? We have the Denver game. Well, Barton played minutes in that game. Right? Barton played minutes in that game. So let's look at maybe Toronto. Let's look at Toronto. So there was the last 2 minutes they threw in the garbage time. So who's been picking it up for Barton? Monty Morris came in for Barton. I guess Monty Morris has been playing for him a little bit. Oh, I tell you what, Millsap didn't play this game either. Barton came in for who? It's really strange. In that fourth quarter, they didn't let him close. They had Murray, Jokic, Harris, Grant, and Monty Morris. So really, Monty Morris against Toronto is the one who stepped in. That could have been because of Powell. I'm not sure. But Monty Morris got 29 minutes that game against Toronto. He stayed in for garbage times, even if you want to call it 27, 28, whatever you want. It's interesting that Will Barton did come out of the game. So it looks like they tried to have Will Barton stay in the fourth quarter with some of the second unit guys, and then eventually they subbed him out, brought in Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, Gary Harris, and they kept in Jeremy Grant because Millsap was out, and they kept in Monty Morris. So that was really Monty Morris who ate into his minutes mostly. He played on the court with him at times, but he was subbing in directly for him in the beginning. So he's the one that I guess had benefited, which isn't off the table, but I guess it depends on how guard heavy Charlotte's going to play, so which could come down to how healthy they end up being if Graham is in. But that's a great question. That's always a great question. Thoughts on Toscano Anderson? Just roll. See the question. Love the question. And yes, when we get to that game, let's remember we'll talk about him. I'll show you the projection. I don't think we have him projected for very many minutes because Golden State is getting healthier. They're getting Steph Curry back today. Draymond Green might actually play for once. We'll see. But anyway, let's go on to this Clippers game. We've got what? We've got a 237 total, highest on the slate by far, not even close. The next closest is the Golden State game at 225.5. The Clippers opened up as 1-point underdogs. They are now 1-point favorites. In terms of schedule, I had mentioned the Rockets were the most rested team. The Clippers have had a day off. They're also in at 3-5, which is, again, completely normal. Houston's had 2 days off. So Houston's had 2 days of rest at this point. They are the most rested team on the slate. By a day, but it is what it is. The Clippers, I would imagine, are going to be pretty popular. They're showing up in ownership projections, and we talked about it earlier. This game in general should be very popular. It does look like the Rocket studs are really the most popular. It seems like Paul George is the main Clipper that's going to get some love. And I'm good with Paul George in this type of matchup, paced-up environment. But I also like Kawhi Leonard. Kawhi Leonard projects really well for us. Keep in mind, our projections incorporate pace. And this is a big pace-up spot for the Clippers. Houston is one of the fastest teams in the game. That's their point. They want to be one of the fastest teams in the game. So that's going to typically provide more opportunities for the surrounding players. Status note on Devontae Graham. He remains questionable. Who does that help? Not me. Zubac is kind of interesting in that the ownership on him is going to be extremely low. I saw the question about him. The ownership is going to be extremely low. There's no doubt about that. The problem is they're willing to go small against a team like Houston. They're probably going to go small. Houston's done a good job of forcing these teams that have the option to play at their level. We saw them play Memphis, and they somehow forced Joval off the court. They've been able to do that, and the problem is that when teams have bigs on the court, it's kind of slowing them down. So the transition game is kind of killing them. So if that's the case today, it's hard to say whether Harrell or Zubac get some time. They've been playing smaller. We've seen like Marcus Morris or PG or Kawhi, like some of these guys rotate in, and they've just gone without a center, and that would be right up Houston's alley. So from a matchup perspective, I'm not sure how I feel about Zubac. From an ownership perspective, I respect the fact that nobody else is going to go there. Marcus Morris is really cheap on FanDuel, on DraftKings at $5K. If it wasn't a 4-game slate, I probably wouldn't even look here because it is a 4-game slate. I don't want to necessarily ignore anyone. I want to make sure I'm taking a clear look and analyzing everyone. But as of right now, like Lou Williams, this would be a matchup he would normally thrive in. The problem is between Patrick Beverly, Reggie Jackson, Lou Williams, and Landry Shamet, they're all kind of fighting for those guard minutes. And that makes things difficult. I was talking earlier on the show about Patrick Beverly. I'm still interested. I'm not like, I don't know how much, but I'm interested. Foul trouble is going to be a thing with Westbrook. He's got the narrative beef with Westbrook. But again, like we said about the Knicks, when the Knicks played the Rockets, Elf only got 19 minutes. Frank Nitti got like 20-something minutes, and it was because of defense. They wanted a guy that can keep up with the guard. Pat Bev is by far their best guard defender. Well, that's not true because Kawhi could guard anybody he wants. But again, we're talking about Harden and Westbrook. So, interesting situation here. So, I'm interested in Pat Bev at $3,600 on DraftKings. It's a really low price. He's been dog shit. No doubt. He's been dog shit. And it's uncomfortable that there are so many guards they could roll with. Lou Williams would be the one for upside. Real quick, Cody Zeller will remain in the starting lineup today. Lou Williams is the one with the most upside as far as the guards go. He's got that ceiling, right? The problem with Lou Williams is he's been fighting for minutes. They're not just given to him anymore. And this is a matchup where they could use his scoring, especially on that second unit. So I am interested. But a situation we've got to have to sort through. Lou Williams, I have projected for 25 minutes. Let's look and see if that's too low based off recent trends. He got 23 against OKC, had a 22.4% usage rate. Got 28 against Philly. That was promising, but then 22 against Denver, 22 against Phoenix, 22 against Memphis. Now, some of those games were blowouts. The positive is his usage rate when he's been on the court over his last 3 games has been massive. So he's been out there with players that allow him to take the shots he needs to take and do the things he needs to do. Montrezl Harrell is another one. He's a little smaller. He could run a little bit. They could still play fast with him in the game, but they are going to be missing that perimeter shooter. They might want an extra perimeter shooter. Houston takes a lot of threes. They live off that. Are the Clippers going to want to keep up, or are they going to play their own game? I'm not sure. But I do like Paul George and Kawhi Leonard for sure. And if Kawhi is going to come in lower owned, then I'm interested for sure. And I think the reason Kawhi is coming in lower owned is because he's a lot more expensive, and I think people are trying to play Westbrook, Harden, if not both. And that would make it difficult to also play Kawhi Leonard because of the lack of value, or at least obvious value, on the slate. So again, it's there's nothing wrong with trying to take some chances. And you can see that like 5.7 today is a really good projection on a slate like this. So we got a few guys there that are projecting fairly well. But Zubac for the ownership, I don't mind. Marcus Morris, I don't mind at low ownership. But obviously expect Paul George to be pretty popular, and I'm cool with that. But I also am interested in Kawhi Leonard because of the projected low ownership. But again, ever since they've made these trades and picked up Reggie Jackson on waivers, they became a little bit of a tougher team to project outside of PG and Kawhi Leonard, who you know are going to get those minutes, who you know are going to have that usage. The rest is kind of just, it's a little tougher to predict now that they're a little more deep. It is what it is. On the Houston side, Harden and Westbrook both projecting fairly well for us, especially when you factor in raw points on a 4-game slate. Raw points matter a little bit more on a 4-game slate. Harden, I told you guys earlier when I was building teams earlier, he was coming in pretty high at, about 90%, I think I was getting at the time. So we'll see after we've made some adjustments, and maybe we'll continue to make some adjustments on this show, where we end up. But I was getting a whole lot of Harden, and I wasn't mad about it. I was only getting around 20% Westbrook. I wonder if that it changed because we did incorporate Mike Scott, who we'll talk about in the next game, which could have opened up more salary. So we'll take a look at that. But I think I was getting a lot of like Westbrook and Kawhi, I think, which I'm fine with. The new house for value is fine. The minutes aren't always guaranteed, but lately he's been getting them 30 or more. Covington's been an absolute beast, man. He's been an absolute beast. Worried a little bit about foul trouble because I think he's going to be tasked with, he's going to have to cover either Paul George or Westbrook. Either Paul George or Kawhi. That they're going to, one of the reasons he's here is for his defense. So we already have his minutes kind of over projected with everybody healthy. He doesn't typically play this much. He has. So maybe we're even a little light, but I may see what I have to do. I want to make sure I have at least some Covington. I think my initial builds I was getting like 11%. I think I might even want more than that. But we'll see. The Toronto news is very important, and it's late. We'll talk about that next. But Harden and Westbrook looking like the top studs. Can't really argue that. PJ Tucker for value. This is a spot that typically centers do well against the Clippers. PJ Tucker is not exactly a traditional center. He's standing around playing that position, but we know he's not actually. What is he? 6'5"? 6'5" when he's wearing his sneakers. Eric Gordon, also a guy you could take a shot on. His minutes have been down, and I think that's health related. He's been having a lot of knee injuries, knee soreness, so I think his minutes being down has more to do with the situation that he's in at the moment, like this with his knee, everything else. So yeah, a game stackable game. It should be extremely popular. Like I said, I was getting a whole lot of Harden, which makes me kind of interested in Westbrook because I think that ownership wise, they're both projected to be pretty popular. So get that out the way, right? Make that clear. Real clear. Let me pop into the chat, talk to you guys. What I think I want to do is run some builds real quick and see if anything has changed. I know for a fact that we've made some changes, so I want to see those changes reflected and see what it all means, Basil. So let's see. I'm building about 100 I think I'm doing 170 teams. That's my usual. 170. Do a 20 entry max with a 150 max. Call it a day. So it does look a little bit different. I'm getting still a lot of Harden, still a lot of Kawhi, a lot of Paul George, getting a lot of Mike Scott, who we'll talk about, getting a lot of Kyle O'Quinn, which is interesting because that's where I think we need to figure things out. That's not a player that I want a substantial ownership on. So we'll get to that game in a second. I'm getting more PJ Tucker than I'm comfortable with. I do expect Paul Millsap to be pretty popular because the slate is hurting for value, and his price is low enough to where you could definitely take some shots. So we'll have to see. News is going to be important, especially in Toronto. I'll be waiting for that with my lungs. All right, let me pop into the chat, and then we will move on to the next game. Let me pop into my where is it? Here we go. Got it. Jim Campbell, all depends on Draymond. Oh, yeah, for Toscano Anderson, yes, agreed. Let me see. Could see his minutes because I was thinking talking about Zubac, Jim, right? 7,400 for Paul George is insane. Yeah, I know. I agree. That's why he's going to be popular because he's easy to reach and a way to get exposure to that game. MG says, pro tip, if you play a lot of lineups, play Van Fleet and leave $100 on the table. If he's out, pivot up $100 to Powell at 6'6". That's a great point, actually, MG. We'll talk about the Toronto game, but that's actually great. Jim Campbell says, like Fred VanVleet if he plays without a minutes limit. I agree. I think the price is right on him. MG says shooting guard is a wasteland if you don't play Harden. It is, which is why Harden's going to be so popular, right? Our boy Paschal says, what asshole has the balls to give you a thumbs down? Bro, this hate is for everyone, man. I've been doing this for a few years already, and along the way, you try your best to maintain positive relationships with people, but at the end of the day, sometimes shit happens, and people have a right to hit whatever button they want to hit. But there's definitely like a couple haters out there who just don't like what we're doing or don't like us, or maybe they had a bad interaction with me, whatever the case may be. But there's always like one, right? There's always like one thumbs down. So somebody just taking time out of their busy schedule, I would imagine it must be so busy, to go out of their way to find our videos just to hit the thumbs down. So we've never really had more than one. So I do believe it's like one person who's just trying to troll us. It's fine. It is what it is. Because you know what? The way we counter that is by having the rest of y'all hit that like button. Right? That's how we counter that. That's it. That's all we can do. So if you haven't already, guys, please do hit that like button. and stick it to the asshole who likes to hit the thumbs down button every single time. If it was like a natural occurrence, if people were just, some people came across the video and didn't like it, that's fine. And I'm sure that's the case for some of the situations, but I know that we've got at least one troll who just goes through and that's what he does, because it's always just one out of nowhere too. Jim Campbell, I'm on Lowry as of now on DraftKings. They could be low owned. See, that's why we were talking about it before. It's important to make sure on DraftKings. On FanDuel, you got to take some guesses, but on Draft, because they don't have late swap. But on DraftKings, we have late swap. That's why it's important to leave yourself, like MG was saying, leave yourself some room. Leave yourself some room to get exposure to that late game, because the ownership's going to be low. There's a lot of people that aren't going to have the time or resources to go back after lock and make those changes. It's going to be low owned as is because people have a lot of question marks. They don't know who's playing. They don't know who's not. So if we get the news before lock, then it'll still be lower owned simply because it's the last game and people don't like to wait. They like to load up on early games. They want to sweat right away. And I get it. But if the news comes after lock, they'll be even lower owned. And you could really take advantage. And that game has the second highest total on the slate. So definitely a situation we want to pay attention to. On to the next, we got the Philadelphia 76ers visiting the Sacramento Kings. We have a 218.5 total. The Kings opened up -4.5. They're up to -5.5. The Sixers have been one of the worst road teams in the game and one of the best home teams in the game. In terms of schedule, let's take a look. Both teams are working with a day off. Philly's obviously been on this West Coast trip for a little while now. We know for Philly, they are missing Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons still. They're also missing Josh Richardson. I think we all thought that Alec Burks was going to see a bigger role. He really didn't. They were spread out. They were playing Raul Neto a little bit. They were playing Tybo a little bit, Glenn Robb a little bit, Furkan. So they were kind of just working these guys in. Shout out to Jim. Shout out to Mike. We were talking on an early look. They had pointed out to me. I had Mike Scott projected for around 23 minutes, which was a huge mistake. When you go back and take a look at what Mike Scott's been doing. First of all, when Jay Rich got hurt, he seemed to actually be the biggest benefactor from that situation. The usage rate is extremely low for Mike Scott, and foul trouble's kind of been an issue for him. Against the Clippers, he had 5 fouls, but I'm assuming he's covering like Kawhi, PG. Against the Lakers, he had 4 fouls, but that was in 36 minutes, so the usage rate is low. But we're talking about a player that's going to grab some boards, playing a team that's not good defensively, nor good on the boards. Listen, this player has an extremely low floor. Mike Scott played 23 minutes against the Kings on November 27th of 2019. That's this season. He had a 13.8% usage rate, which is higher than the usage rates he's been demonstrating in the last 2 games. And he went for 9.5 DraftKings points because he shot 0 for 7 from the field, 0 for 6 from 3, only had 2 assists, 2 rebounds, a steal, and a block. So that's a possibility. But as of right now, when you're looking at what he's done recently and what recent trends say, it looks like he's in line to pick up a lot of minutes. He was the main benefactor. We all thought Burks was going to get it. And I'm curious to see where it goes with ownership. Looking at some ownership, it does look like he's starting to pop up on people's radar. His ownership is rising throughout the day. So that's a possibility, but I still think he's one of the stronger value options that we have on the slate, given the situation that we are in. Now, again, he's been shooting fairly efficiently. 4 for 6, 4 for 8, 3 or 4 from 3, 4 or 7 from 3. But the rebounds certainly help. They certainly help. And this is, as long as he's getting the minutes, I'm willing to take the shot. I don't see a reason why he wouldn't. That's the value piece. Just wanted to get that out of the way. With that said, I'm actually really interested in some of these guys. I think Tobias Harris can come in somewhat lower owned. The usage for Tobias has been awesome. It's getting pretty close to 30. You know how I feel about guys with usage rates in the 30s. So I think this could be a situation where he does see a usage rate in the 30s, assuming this game is competitive. Philly's terrible on the road, but I'm praying that they don't get their ass whooped by the Kings that bad. Al Horford, I think, is also interesting. Obviously, his projection not as pretty, at least not on DraftKings at 4.97. That's a really low projection. But again, we anticipate him having higher usage. He just hasn't had it. Now, this is a good spot for centers in general. But to be honest, I'm just really unimpressed with the usage rates we've seen for Al Horford. I feel like we're getting similar stuff from Mike Scott, especially if Scott is going to play those minutes. But again, I respect the fact that he's going to be low owned, and he should be the second guy to kind of step it up. I think Shake Milton is a fine tournament play. I like his price more on FanDuel, obviously at 5.4, but even on DraftKings at 6.5, I don't mind working some of him in. He was pretty disappointing against the Lakers, but what's promising about him is in 2 straight games, he's had a usage rate in the mid-20s. 25.7 against the Clippers in a close game that he played 40 minutes in. 24 against the Lakers, where he played 29 minutes, got into some foul trouble, and just didn't have that great of a game. That's it. But had he gotten the minutes that we needed him to get, and I do think he will, I think he's a guy that will play big minutes as long as the game is competitive and he's not in foul trouble and he's doing the things he got to do to stay on the court. So I'm interested in Shake. And you can see, like, I was aggressive with the minutes here because we have to reflect the usage increases as well, right? It's not just they're playing more minutes. We're expecting them to take more shots because Ben Simmons and Embiid are off the court, and J. Rich, who would be the primary go-to options outside of Tobias, and then I guess Horford after that. So what do we got to do to make sure we get some Shake? If I go 38.5, obviously on FanDuel, that's going to help him strong. Tobias on FanDuel, it just seems I don't even understand how he's so cheap. But like I said, I'm going to work some on DraftKings. I think if this game stays close, there's a possibility Tobias does play that 42. And I only did the 42 to kind of show a reflection of his usage. Kyle O'Quinn's projecting well. I'm actually getting a good amount of him, but I got to adjust his minutes because we can't just, even though I have him for 14 minutes here, we can't just assume he's going to get those 14 minutes. Like, what we got here? He played 7 against the Clippers. He didn't play at all against the Lakers. 14 against the Knicks, 12 against. So yeah, that's an adjustment that we got to make. No doubt. Philly Lakers, where you at? Just want to popcorn machine it real quick. Are we getting news for tomorrow? We getting Knicks news right now? That's the last thing I'm trying to hear about is the New York Knicks news right now. But let's see. Do a quick checkup. Make sure that we are keeping informed with everything. Shit. What the? All right, let's look. Yeah, I saw news for tomorrow. Nothing important. Okay, that was a big waste of time, but it is what it is. Better safe than sorry in these circumstances. When did they play the Philly against the Lakers? Oh, here it is. I got it. March 3rd. Okay. So let's look at this. Who played the 5? Oh, Pele got 3 minutes, so that took some away. Like I said, they didn't use Kyle O'Quinn. They just went small. They just went really small against the Lakers. No wonder Anthony Davis went fucking nuts. They just went small as hell. Fair enough. But yeah, I'm lowering this to a point where it's not going to so aggressively give us... I don't mind working this out. 150 teams, you want to have like 5 to 10%. Unless you got a good feeling for some reason. He could do it. Don't get me wrong. That's the problem with Brett Brown. It's very hard to predict what he's going to do. It's very hard to predict his rotations. But if he did get time on the court, he's a very high point per minute average. He would be the best value play on the slate if we knew he was playing. But with guys like Pell there, like there's all these dudes that they could work in. We got Raul Neto even projected for like no minutes, and he obviously got to play. Let me just see. I'm going to do some refreshes and do some research. Let's make sure that we're not missing anything on Philly here. Because this game, I think the ownership is going to be pretty low, which could give us some leverage if we get it right. Let's take a look here. Ooh, I picked the wrong team. That's what I did. Philly. Let's look at you, Philly. See, Alec Burks, man. Like, wouldn't it be the ultimate troll move right now for Alec Burks to all of a sudden get minutes and shit? Wouldn't that be? Yeah, I'm going to make some adjustments real quick. Bear with me, guys. We got time. It's all good. We only got one more game after this. I do got to talk about the King side, but we'll get there. And then I'll pop in the chat for the last one. Don't you worry. I'm trying to get y'all's opinion on this. I want to hear some feedback on this. You're going to see it reflect on the screen in just a little bit. Let me just make sure that I keep my guys where I wanted them to be. Yep. Boy, Shake. Oh, what am I doing here? Shit. Alec Burks. See, Burks could do so well. See, what I wouldn't be surprised today, it wouldn't surprise me at all if we found out after lock that, like, oh, Alec Burks is a starter. I'm not speculating. I'm not trying to put ideas in your head, but that wouldn't surprise me. If they were to do that, though, I would most certainly be adjusting his projection and loading the fuck up. On FanDuel, man, it'd be good to go know that news. But I have no reason to believe they would because they just haven't at all. Richardson's missed a lot of time. Simmons has already missed a few games, and they haven't really used him more like we thought they would. So I got no reason to believe that. But it's a damn shame. Doesn't mean it's not a damn shame. Michael Scott. All right, here we go. Updates coming in now. Do a mass update. Mass update coming. Boom. So let's take a look at some of the things that may be changed. Wait for this bitch to load. Oh, there it goes. But it's all good. You know why? You know why it's all good? Because it's coming back. That's why. It's coming back. There we go. So Tobias Harris looks all right. Mike Scott, we got projected for a good value play. We reduced Kyle O'Quinn. Gave Nito a little action, like 10 minutes. Nothing crazy. I'm going to resort this real quick so it's a little more organized and putting the zeroed out players at the bottom. Well, I'm hoping this is enough to where I don't necessarily want to be overboard on the exposure to Philly, but give me some. Like, spread me out enough to where I have some and I feel comfortable. But I have a feeling that right now, on a slate with no value and a lot of studs, we're going to end up with a lot of Mike Scott, at least as of now. Unless something else opens up. But I got my eye out on Toronto, man. I really think that's going to be some things. I'm going to try to leave some teams with that game if I can. On the Sacramento side, I'm interested in Harry Giles. I know he was a little disappointing. I was high on him last time out. And they ended up going small for portions of that game. Alex Len didn't really see too many more minutes. Giles definitely played more minutes, but he got into foul trouble again, and they eventually just went small. They were playing Washington, so they could. They're playing Philly against Horford. They could go small, but obviously bigs have had success against Philly lately, so we saw Anthony Davis just go nuts. I'm not comparing Harry Giles to Anthony Davis by any means, but I do think that him and Alex Len are in a decent spot. The question, of course, is the minutes. How many minutes do we think they actually get? Corey Joseph, I think, is questionable in this one as well, so pay attention to that. If he's out, maybe De'Aaron Fox is forced to play more minutes than usual. Maybe Buddy Hield is forced to play a couple extra minutes. Just something to keep an eye on. Maybe Kent Bazemore picks up those minutes. But I do like Giles, and he is currently showing up as our best projected player here. I don't mind De'Aaron Fox. He's a little expensive. I think his ownership's going to be really low. He is dealing with he's dealing with an abdominal strain. Buddy Hield, man, I would love to take Buddy Hield in this spot. This is a spot where he could really excel, but his minutes have been so low. Maybe this is the slate to take a shot, but 23 minutes against Washington. Now, he took 16 shots. His usage, that's the bright side. His usage has been massive. He's basically Lou Williams right now. He's not playing a ton of minutes, but when he's on the court, he's taking a ton of shots. It's like all he's doing is taking shots, grabbing boards. So I don't want to ignore him, but at 5'9", it is tough. On FanDuel, much easier to take a shot if you want to take a shot, especially if you have a bunch of different teams. Bogdanovich, I don't mind either. I could get behind him. He's not projecting all that well, but his minutes have been higher. It's the bottom line. He seems to be getting the minutes over Buddy Hield. He got 30 minutes against Washington, 28 against Detroit, 27 against Memphis. Hasn't always done a ton with them. But again, I respect the fact that he is getting minutes, and I think he's one of the players that has the potential to see more minutes. So I'm good with that. But just tournament plays, right? Games like this to be different if you want. A bunch of different ways to go about it. Let me pop in that chat before we get to the last game. Let's get it. Let's get it. All right. Yeah, I got a nice pivot already. Okay. Jim Campbell says, let's get this money. What contests do y'all play FanDuel? I play GPPs. I don't really play cash. We've done the cash thing before, and there's still a market for it. But realistically, I'm trying to win the big bucks. It's a slower grind. For me personally, I'd rather bet on a game than play a cash game. I have that ability. I live in New Jersey, so it's legal here. But definitely when in DFS, tournaments all day for me. And I do as many lineups as I can afford to do that day without being a degenerate. Dwayne James, what's up, bro? The true OG, which player is going to do the dirty on us? We'll find out, man. We'll find out. We still got another game to cover. We will find out. We'll bring Paulie on an hour or two and, and see what we do. All right. Hit the like button if you haven't already. We're going to get to this next game here. All right. I think I missed some. I didn't even see all these. My bad. I didn't scroll down. Point guards having their way with Charlotte last 5 or so. Absolutely. Jamal Murray. I don't mind it. Ryan Johnson. always have a tough time with exposures. How to recognize when to hit the lock button, go over 60%. Any insight? I know slate, etc. all plays a part, but so basically what Ryan is asking is like, how do you determine when to go? Like we talk about a core. How do you actually pick your core, right? You're doing 150 teams. You understand that 30% of this guy sounds nice, 20% of this guy sounds nice, but when do you feel like, nah, I need 100% of this player. I need 90% of this player. I need 70%. First of all, you don't need to do that. Like I've had success capping like with my highest exposure players being 60. Now, I'll typically when I do that, I'll have like 4 or 5 players at 60. But nowadays, I don't really cap much. I kind of just let my projections do the thing. I mean, this is a product that we have at WiseTake.com, so people are relying on it. So I give everything I got into these things, and if I'm not willing to put my own money behind it, then I shouldn't be putting it up. With that said, to me, it comes down more to probability, right? Like players that are going to get minutes. I might like a player like Tobias Harris. I like him, right? But what are the chances he's the top scoring player on the slate? Maybe not high enough to where I should go 80%, right? Maybe if I can get 30% of him and be well overweight, that's fine. Now, situation yesterday, should I have been that heavy on Kevin Porter Jr.? Hindsight's 20/20, so you're going to say no. But in reality, that's a player that should have played 41 minutes last night. And if you could look at his teammates to see that their rotation was extremely tight, and he should have been a part of that. So that's a player that should have played 40 minutes. So you're going to give me 40 minutes from a player that's that low, that cheap. I'm going to take it. He averages XYZ points per minute. He's getting this many minutes. The probability of him hitting value for me is massive. Now, there's a small little percent chance the motherfucker gets hurt, and that's what happened. But to answer your question, to be clear, that's how I look at that myself. Probability. It's not just the projections. It's not just because we could say, okay, Shake Milton projects for 35. What's his probability of hitting that 35 though? And here's the thing, it's not about hitting 35. We need him to hit 6x. So on FanDuel, he has a higher probability of giving you 6x because 33, assuming he gets 39 minutes. Now, what if he doesn't get this many minutes? That's a whole other variable. And he's a bad example because I overprojected his minutes a little bit to reflect the usage increase with no Simmons and no Embiid. But you get my drift. Probabilities. That those are the players I'm willing to go highest on. The players that I think have the highest probability of coming through. I was nervous to do it for Mo Wagner. Why? Because the probability, maybe it seems high in his per minute average, but his minutes were extremely unpredictable. The other day, I thought Alec Burks' probability of paying off was high, but that wasn't in Brett Brown's case. The probability is only that high if I know he is playing that many minutes, and I thought I knew he was. Brett Brown thought otherwise. Jameis says I'm going to have little low-owned Burks. I don't mind that at all. Just roll. Can you give me a player DK utility 30K or below? 3.8 or below. Is that it? Yeah, 3.8 or below on DraftKings. Mike Scott, right? Yeah, like Ryan said, Mike Scott, Pat Bev. Those are the first two that would come to mind for me. But we'll keep it rolling. We'll bring Paulie on in a little bit. We'll ask him. We got one more game to cover, and then we will bring Paulie on for hour 2. Let's get into it. We've got the Toronto Raptors. Toronto Raptors visiting the Golden State Warriors. We've got a 225.5 total. The Raptors opened up -8. They're up to -9 on the road. In terms of scheduling, both teams are working with the day off. This is a 4-6 for the Warriors, but again, they are still working with the day off. Not the worst situation. Plus, they're home. Not the worst situation. Starting with Toronto. So it's hard to really, like I said earlier, nothing's really changed. It's hard to kind of project these guys without knowing who's in or out. And on top of that, Marc Gasol is actually questionable. I don't expect Marc Gasol to play, but he is technically questionable. If he did play, and he did start hypothetically, look how cheap this mother sucker is. $4K on FanDuel, $4.4 on DraftKings. I like what MG said about Van Fleet and Powell. Right now, Powell's not interesting if Van Fleet is in. If Van Fleet is in, I'm cool with that, and you can let that rock at 6'5", or 6'1", whatever. However, you may want to leave some room on DraftKings to make that change to Norman Powell because we've seen Norman Powell just excel with Van Fleet out. So keep an eye out for the news. This is what we can't talk about is matchups, right? Golden State's a terrible defensive team. They're expected to have Steph Curry back, though we don't know how much he's anticipated to play. This is a team that has so many main injuries, and you got Ibaka, Gasol, and Van Fleet, all players who make an impact and make a difference for their teams. all players who have really good matchups, because everybody on this team has a good matchup today. And it's a difference maker. We need to know. Van Fleet has a very great price on FanDuel, but it's going to be hard for you to pull a trigger and play a lot of Van Fleet on FanDuel with no late swap when you have no idea if he's even playing. So there's some roadblocks. That makes me like the Toronto side in this game in general, because it makes me feel like it's going to be low owned. This game will start till 10:30 p.m. Eastern. So it's the last game going, and I think it's going to have low ownership. It's got the second highest total on the slate. So if that Clippers-Rockets game blows out, which I know it's not projected to, but say it did, right? Things happen. And people just assume I don't need this Toronto game because they're just going to dust off the Warriors. If Van Fleet, Ibaka, and Gasol all miss, Toronto has struggled in this scenario, right? With missing these dudes. They've struggled. So I'm interested to figure this out. Right now, if everybody's healthy, then you might feel like, oh shit, I did it for nothing. But if everybody's healthy, I still like Ibaka a little bit. Not as much. But really, Van Fleet would be my favorite. But if these guys are out, give me some Kyle Lowry. Give me some Paschal Siakam. Give me Norman Powell. Even at 6'6", I don't care. Just to be different on a 4-game slate to take some chances. But again, this is a situation where the news is going to make a big deal. And so hopefully we get it before lock so you can make your moves even if it's late. If not, if you're on DraftKings, be ready to late swap. Get some exposure to these guys so that you can have the ability to alter those players later. On the Golden State side, more of the same. We know that Steph Curry's back. We have no idea how much he's anticipated to play. We know his usage without no Clay or anyone else that was on his team last year, like KD. We expect his usage to be ridiculously high. Wiggins is there now. That could have somewhat of an impact. But I'm more concerned about Curry's minutes because the price is low. And I think we talked about this earlier in that if you're doing one team, probably not a good idea to play Steph Curry on it. If you're doing 150 teams, why not have a few teams with him on? Even if you're doing 20 teams, why not have 1 or 2 teams with him on there at low ownership? It's a hand injury. Is he in shape? Not sure. We don't know if he's kept himself in shape. I would assume he is. He did play a scrimmage. That's why they pushed back his debut or his return, because they wanted him to have a little scrimmage action in the G League, and he did. Rumor has it he missed the game, what would have been the game-winning shot, but that was just a 5-on-5 scrimmage with a G League team, G League on G League action. You know what I mean? So it's hard to gauge. I forgot somebody asked about Juan Toscano-Anderson earlier. If Draymond is in, it's hard to really justify doing that. If Draymond is out, maybe we can consider it. Right, I'd be a little more okay with it, but like if Marquise Chris, for instance, if Draymond is out, if Gasol and Ibaka are out, then I'm gonna like Marquise Chris more. His matchup gets a little bit better. So there's some stuff here. We're still waiting on the news. It can get different, right? Andrew Wiggins, not a guy that's projecting well for us, but he is gonna come in really low owned. Again, I think his ownership could be low. It should be low. But I think his usage is going to be impacted. So, again, the Warriors, similarly to Toronto, if they are getting healthier, a little harder to decipher, right? But if Draymond is out, I'll like Paschal more. I will like Toscano-Anderson more as a value play because we are looking for stuff to get different, and they kind of provide that. So, again, keeping an eye on the late games, just trying to, knowing I can get low ownership there. Why not take a shot? It's a 4-game slate. I don't know how high scoring of a slate is going to be because, again, like from a projection standpoint, it's not like loaded. You see a lot of people. Normally, you guys look at this, and because of all the injuries, you'll see a lot of players for 6X, projecting for 6X, projecting for even higher. But in this particular case, we went through all these games, and there's not a ton of guys projecting for that high. So, could be a pretty good day to get a little spread out, and I think that we'll have higher concentrations on some of those studs like Harden. For me, maybe Kawhi Leonard. But we'll see. We'll bring on Paulie, ask him some questions, see how he feels about a slate. See how he feels about it. Paulie D, the OG, you know. Let me see here. Jim Campbell, Steph 25 minutes according to Kerr per Fantasy Labs. That's what we put it at. I put it at about 25. MG said it's a soft limit, so I guess depending on the flow of the game, he could play a little bit more. We'll have to see. And not for nothing, but it is Steph Curry. If he goes out there and starts chucking, the other issue is he rusty? It was a hand injury. Just Roll says, I ended up with a bunch of exposure to the Houston Clippers game. Absolutely, and for good reason. Like, that's got the highest total on the board. Projections are going to push you there. I think it makes sense. I understand. Jim Campbell makes a good point. They have no reason to push Steph Curry. I'm actually surprised they're even bringing him back this early. Because that is true. There's no reason to be playing him. Other than, you want to sell some tickets, which I guess. Dwayne James says he could score 30 real points in 20 minutes with his eyes closed. He's the best shooter ever. He can. He certainly can. We see players way worse than him that have done that. He can. But how much? What is the probability that he does? That's what you need to ask yourself. And if you think, I'm not saying I got the answer to that. If you believe that's a high probability play, then you could raise your exposure, but adjust your exposures accordingly to what the probability is of him returning you value. If you only think he has a 10% chance of returning you value, GPP value, not 5x, 6x or better. If you think he has a 10% chance, then you don't need to be playing on 50, 60% of him, or even 40%, right? Not if you think he has a 10% chance of hitting it. You should only have maybe 5%, maybe 10% if you really want to push it. But if you believe in your heart that this has a much better probability than I think the rest of the field seems to think, then take your stance. Take your stance that way. MG says I've seen him put up 55 DraftKings points in 25 minutes. He definitely could. And like we said, you doing one lineup? Probably not, right? You're doing multiple teams. If you're doing 150 at max centering, why not? Emerson Jean says, Emerson Jean says, any word on the Raptor injuries? Not yet. We're still waiting to get him. We haven't got it. MG says, I don't think we're getting it. I would agree. I don't think we're going to get the Raptors news before lock. That game will start till 10:30 p.m. Eastern. Hopefully we get it. Maybe we do get it at 6:35 and we could do something about it, alter the projections and see what we get then. But I agree. I'm not sure we're going to get any. And that's going to make getting exposure to them difficult, but I'm going to try to find a way to make that work and make sure I have some exposure. Nation, if you haven't hit that like button, please hit that like button. Really helps us out, goes a long way, allows us to continue to do the dirty, continue to do the content on the YouTube for free, and we like doing it. I'm going to take a quick pause, put up our pause screen, play some background music. We're going to bring on Paulie D, and we'll continue to talk this slate out. Obviously, we only have 4 games here, so it's a little more manageable, pretty easy going, so I'll try to be interactive with the chat, but keep in mind that I am editing the projections for everyone and over at WiseTake.com. Which in turn updates the cheat sheet. So I got my eyes in a lot of places. We got our own teams to build. So we're going to do what we can. We'll ask Paulie some questions, get his feel. And if you have any, just keep asking him. And when I get to him, I'll get to him. If not, you just know that I'm trying my best. Y'all know. That's one thing that y'all know. So hit the like button. I see a couple of you already have. I really, really appreciate it. I do. Muchos gracias, if you will. I'm not Spanish. I know some people thought I was Italian. People think I'm Spanish. People think I'm all kinds of things. But, not that any of that matters. But anyway, we're going to get about. I'll be right back. Don't go nowhere. I'm just going to pause it and we'll come back with Paulie. It's going to be like magic. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
What we do here is go back.
What up, nation? We are back with part 2 of the NBA Wise stream. Appreciate those of you who have hit that like button. Please continue to do it if you haven't done it already, because it really gets us rolling. CK once again joined by the GOAT, the true OG. Y'all know him as Paulie D. Y'all find him on Twitter at Paulie with 8 Ds. Paulie, what's happening?
What's happening, baby?
It's a weird slate, man. I'm trying to like it, trying to force myself to like it, but we do have a Friday tomorrow, which typically means we have some pretty good slates going, like a pretty good action. So I don't want to force it. We're going to play. We're going to do what we do. But it's strange. I find it difficult to get different in a confident way.
Difficult to get different. Yeah, I agree. Mm-hmm. There's no like Bobby Porter's pivot value play today that I'm like, I love this shit.
Yeah, it's just... There's guys you could take a shot on. There's a lot of concentrated chalk on a 4-game slate. And, obviously it seems like everybody's going to focus on that Clippers game, and it's hard to really argue against it. It's got the highest total on the board by far. It's this is a playoff-type atmospheric game. So what do you think it is? Do we just roll with the chalk and rotate some lower owned planes and get as many combinations different as we can with the chalk? Or do we just take a different approach, find a different game to load up on?
So, like, in my experience, these kind of like tight spread playoff matchup things, like, will either be like phenomenal overtime down to the wire games or like lopsided blowouts. And like, unfortunately, the lopsided blowout is what would really pay off if you nailed that and kind of faded those guys and loaded up on the other 3 games. So like, I just think like a balance of those 2 scenarios, right? Like half your lineups with that game being phenomenal, trying to jam in as many players from it as you can. Not even necessarily the highest price guys, but some of the value plays that'll be lesser owned. Guys like Pat Bev and like PJ Tucker, Danuel House, maybe even what's his name, Zubac, stuff like that, or and then the other half of your team's kind of fading that game, maybe like taking one side, trying to guess which side does the blowing, And then like really more focusing on the other 3 games, hoping that they're closer and different combinations of that. Because, like you said, everyone's going to be loading up on that Houston Clippers game. I understand why. But I do think like when you have that kind of polarizing one game standing out, I find a lot of times it actually does blow out like one way dramatically or the other. Like it'll be close, and then like one team will kind of pull away and, no one will play in the fourth quarter and like, it'll gut out kind of hard and the slates become wide open. And if that does happen, you want to like be in position to take advantage versus like just doing what everyone else is doing, as hard as that is to do.
Agreed. No, I agree. It's definitely tough to pull the trigger like that, but at the same time, if not, then you're just going to be playing the same thing as everyone else. And on a slate like this, where the value is not pretty, like even forcing in Harden and Westbrook and Kawhi or whoever you want to play, like you're gonna have to play something for value, and the exposures that you may get in order to get those players. And it's not pretty. I'm not saying it can't work. It's just not something that you might not feel comfortable with. With that said, let's go ahead and go into the studs mid-tier value area. I'm gonna answer some questions here. Hopefully we get the Toronto news. That's pretty big for me, but we'll see. I have a feeling we're not going to get it, and we're going to have to just roll the dice. But with that said, Paulie, talk to me about the studs that you like the most, if any, on the slate.
So Russ is my favorite stud on the slate. Doing some recency research yesterday. Over the last 2 weeks, he's actually had higher usage than Harden. The matchup, I think, favors his skill set where he's basically given up on shooting threes. He'll shoot a couple a game. If he's feeling good, he'll pop a couple. But otherwise, he's taking everything to the rim. And the Clippers don't really have many rim protectors. They like to really go small with Montrez as their 5. And that really plays to Russ's strengths. And he hates Pat Bev. And they've had a pretty, consistent rivalry for a few years now. He kind of gets up to play against them. These are, besides the Lakers, like these are the 2, most projected teams to be in the finals. So I'm sure either one wants to have this win. I think it's the last time they see each other before the playoffs, if they see each other in the playoffs. And, both teams would like to win. So you get a motivated Russ against a team that doesn't protect the rim very well with a high total. He's cheaper than Harden. He's my favorite stud on the slate. I'm cool with Harden too. I'll probably have like 65 Russ, 35 Harden, a couple intertwined where I get them both, although that's pretty hard. Like you mentioned, the value's just not very good. Then it would probably be, Tobias Harris. I know, he's 7'9", but there's only like 6 guys above that on this entire slate. So I'm calling him a stud today. The price, the usage, the opponent, the ownership, all those kind of things combined really make me like him. Like I think he goes for 45 plus DraftKings points or FanDuel, whichever. Going to take 20 plus shot attempts. A third of those will be threes. He should get to the line quite a bit. The Kings don't really protect the rim, so he can, shoot from outside or go inside. They haven't been guarding wings well at all. Like, they really need to get on the right track and win some games. They've lost 2 in a row now, 3 of their last 4. So, plus it's his, I think they're going to go through him to try to win this game. So he's probably my second favorite. Then I do like Kawhi, but I think I actually lean Jokic a tad over him because of the ownership differential. Jokic's in an absolute smash spot. The probability of him smashing is low. There's just not many other studs to really choose from on this slate. They're not shorthanded. They're probably going to blow this team out, although I thought that about them against the Warriors, and they got smacked. So maybe on the road, like Charlotte keeps this game close, and you do get more run out of him. But as many minutes as he's in for, he should average like 1.3 or more points per minute. I think his floor is very safe, and I think he'll be the lowest owned by far of the studs. So he'd be my third with Kawhi pretty close behind. I'm not that into Siakam or Lowry, although I wouldn't be fading them completely. They're just, if I'm ranking the studs, I like the others better. You're muted.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Now, I will say one thing: Kawhi Leonard's projected to be lower owned than Jokic at the moment. You know,
Wow.
that's up for your own interpretation to decide whether or not you agree with it. But I'm seeing like a good 10 to 15% difference depending on where you look in the ownerships of those two. Maybe because of Paul George, and you figure Harden or Westbrook going to be in a lot of people's teams. Maybe that's the reason. But Jokic is the same price, I think, right? Isn't he? Something like that.
Yeah, and Jokic's like 200 more, and that was my thinking. Like, if you can afford Jokic, then why wouldn't you just be putting Kawhi into that lineup to kind of correlate with like the Westbrooks and Hardens that you're playing? So I think that's a wrong projection, but that's just my opinion.
No, I hear you. I agree with you on the Tobias Harris take. The more I think about it, the more that I'm starting to like Tobias specifically, especially if it's going to be lower owned. Talk to me about the mid tier, Paulie. What about the mid tier? Who are some of the guys you're looking at?
So, sticking to Philly, like Al Horford and Shake Milton are some of my favorite mid tier plays. Like, I think all three could be in the winning lineup today. Definitely two. And like Al Horford, I think is going to be very low owned. Correct me if I'm wrong. And like, he should get a lot of minutes. Sacramento doesn't, defend bigs well with their current roster. And like, again, I think Philly really needs this win. And I think he'll see 35 minutes or so in a close game with little resistance, triple double upside. Like, he's a vet. When a team needs a win, like, he's the guy that'll make the plays to kind of get you there. I just expect him to play well and kind of have a ceiling result. And then Shake Milton, like, finally came back down to earth with his shooting, but the usage, the minutes, the matchup, like, I think it all just really like points to a solid spot for all these Philly guys. And maybe I like Philly more than I realized, or this game more than I realized, but those three, just because of minutes, usage, matchup, pace, all that good shit. Then I do like Buddy Hield quite a bit. I don't love the minutes lately. I can't really explain why they haven't played him more. But like the usage when he's on the court is awesome on that second unit. And I just expect that, like, if he is playing well, that they will give him more minutes. Like, he'd kind of come off a rough stretch of shooting. It's starting to turn. And I think this is a spot where, like, if they're getting beat up, he'll maybe get some blowout run. Or if the game's like close, he's probably a part of it, and he probably will close finally. Like, I don't understand why they've been closing with what's his name, the backup point guard, whatever his name, can't think of it. Corey Joseph, thanks. Yeah. So I do like Buddy Hield in the mid tier. Fox is expected to play, but if he were to get pulled out, then like everybody on the Kings in the mid tier, I would like. I do like what's his name, Harry Giles and Harrison Barnes as well from that team. Robert Covington's been playing phenomenal. I'm cool with him. I like Montrezl Harrell. I just think the Clippers like won't really need Zubac and can kind of just match. Harden's really been guarding the centers for Houston lately. Like, so Montrez can be the 5 and they'll be totally fine. So I think he sees like more minutes today, getting paced up. Like the spot for him. I think we see a double-double out of him. Paul George is probably going to be one of the more popular mid-tier plays. Totally like that. Really like Terry Rozier today. Like if Graham's in, then he'll be like a core play for me. Denver's been really bad guarding the point guard of late, worst on this slate. He's had good usage ever since Monk went down, playing big minutes, whether they get smoked or whether the game's close. They've actually been in a bunch of close games lately, even against some tough opponents. He's taking 15 or more shots. Half could be threes. He's got the assists, the rebounds. If Graham's ruled out, like, I think there's a much less chance that the game will be close. I think he'll become chalk, and I'll be a little less on him. But if Graham is in, which we should get that news fairly soon, I like going to Rozier because I think Graham's going to be really popular. And, this is like Rozier was chalk and kind of failed, or just, didn't fail, but didn't do anything good. Like, I could see him kind of like at low ownership, popping today. And the one kind of weakness of Denver is the point guard position. I'm always going to play some Miles, what's his name? My boy.
Miles Bridges.
Yeah, Miles Bridges. Like that his price is under 6K. Think that I like how he gets like the second quarter, minutes by himself, or maybe with Graham if Graham does play, but double-digit shot attempts. He can take, upwards of 8 to 10 threes if he's hitting them. Gets rebounds, gets some peripherals. Cool with him as well. Who else is up in my mid-tier? That might be it. That maybe I forgot one or two guys, but there's not much on the slate.
Agreed. Dare I take you to Value Town, where it's ugly? I mean, there's options. There's definitely options. It's just not pretty. PJ Tucker, Pat Beverly. Talk to me about some of the guys that you're going to be forced to look into.
So Glenn Robinson is probably my favorite value play at 4K. Got 31 minutes last game, shot 10 of 15, like the 15 shot attempts. We kind of like the field thought it was going to be Burks, but it really was Robinson. Burks got some run too and good usage when he was on, but I wouldn't be shocked if Robinson starts over Tybull today at the 2, gets the 32 and maybe even more minutes. Seemed to kind of like gel well with the other starters, and is a guy who kind of does a little bit of everything, but I like the 22% usage, the 15 shot attempts at the 4K price tag. Another 76er that I like. Mike Scott, another 76er. He should start. He got 31 minutes. He was on the court in the close against the Lakers. They were, it was sort of close. So him, Glenn Robinson, Tobias Harris, Al Horford, and Shake Milton. Like, that's the 5 that I think will get the most minutes for Philly today, and I like them all. Willie Hernan-Gomez, Jalen McDaniels, and Cody Martin. All 3 value plays I like from Charlotte. Surprised their prices aren't higher. If Graham gets ruled out, I'll like them all a bit more, but even if Graham's in, they don't have anybody else, and these guys have good usage rates. Good results, and their prices just haven't caught up. You mentioned Pat Bev. Way too cheap. Even if he just plays what he's been, 20 to 24 minutes, he can go get it 25, be like one of the better value plays. But I think he's going to get 30 minutes today, guarding Russ and Harden. They kind of need him. And, it doesn't take much to get him motivated. You got Russ on the court. I think this is a great Pat Beverly spot. Alex Len, the minutes have been awesome. They don't necessarily need him because of lack of size on Philly, but I don't think they care about matchup as much. I think they're going to play him pretty decent minutes regardless. And he can do a lot in a very short amount of time, and Philly doesn't have anyone to really stop him. So I do like Alex Len. Who else? PJ Tucker, Danuel House, I'm all right with. Furkan Korkmaz, one of the 76ers that I'm not as high on, him and Burks, but I'm willing to mix them in. Either one has big upside if their shot is falling. And then if some guys get ruled out for Toronto, then like Chris Boucher, Rondae Hollis-Jefferson, they could become interesting again, but only if those guys are ruled out. Paul Millsap, I like the price tag. I don't even think he needs a ton of time to do well, so mix him in. Gary Harris, I'm cool with. Jordan Poole, even with Curry back, I'm fine with. But Robinson, Mike Scott, Willie Hernan, Pat Bev, and then McDaniels and Cody Martin, probably the value I'll be highest on.
Yeah, again, it's all, kind of rotating things around. I think in a sense, if you wanted to just play some of the, the easier studs, the Westbrooks, the Hardens, Paul Georges, and just kind of rotate the value, you have a case. I think that's going to be the approach for a lot of people doing MME tonight, but either way, it's interesting. I did find, I'm looking for some Raptors news. I haven't seen anything just yet other than that they're questionable, but apparently the Raptors did not have a shoot-around today. However, I am seeing from, I think he works for The Athletic, Blake Murphy, who is a Raptors beat writer for The Athletic, says that Steph Curry says he'll be capped somewhere around 24 to 28 minutes tonight. So on an unrelated note, 28 minutes, like earlier in the chat, we were talking about 25. I think that was a number that Steve Kerr had thrown around, but Steph Curry seems to think somewhere between 24 and 28. How interested are you in Steph Curry today?
So, 25 minutes, he's gone for 60 in the past, right? If his three's hitting, he could smash. It was a hand injury, so I think he'll be in shape. I do have some interest. Likely he doesn't burn you. When he's on the court, he's going to have maybe the highest usage on the slate. And, I think he's going to have the whole team kind of amped up. They'll be in the game a little longer, but Toronto's really fucking good. And I think if a couple of Toronto guys were to get ruled out, I would like it more. But he's just like a way to get different and hope that he smashes. I can recall one other time, maybe it was last year or 2 years ago, where he returned from injury, and I was like, I'm going to wait and see. And the first game back, he went for 60 and then didn't for a while after. You know what I mean? So I'll have some 20% would be the max, just because it's a 4-game slate. 20 is probably way higher than I would on a normal size slate. But on a 4-game slate, that's not even very, very high. It's just sounds high, but that's the most. I don't think, he was 75 or 7K, I'd be a lot more into it. But at 8K, he's got to get you 45 or more. And that's a pretty solid game in 25 minutes. He can do better, but I don't think it's likely.
Yeah, I agree. I was explaining earlier, talking about probabilities, and that's kind of where I fall. What do you think the probability is that he smashes? There's obviously a possibility. We did just get news Devontae Graham will play.
Okay, good.
Devontae Graham is in. So you were saying that makes you want to play a little bit of Rozier for lower ownership? And then you like Graham a lot, right?
Yep. Low ownership.
Graham, you like Graham a lot, right?
I'm cool with Graham, yeah. I'm not in love, but the price is too low, and he's going to have good usage, but I do prefer
Rozier
and Miles Bridges.
Sure enough. My hand on my gun because I got run. Yeah, Graham. I would anticipate Graham to be pretty damn popular today.
Optimizers like them, so I would agree.
Yeah, the price is just too low. Let me see what I got to do to get some more Steph Curry.
Price is too low on everybody on Charlotte.
Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah,
every single player.
They're tempting you to play these guys.
Yeah.
What are on the other side of that, man? What are your thoughts on Jamal Murray?
I like him. He's my favorite Nugget.
Hold up, I want to look something up with the last time these guys played. January 15th. Denver and Charlotte. All right.
Murray's probably out.
Was that?
I said Murray was probably out.
Oh, it was no. Murray was in, but that wasn't even. Matter of fact, I think Murray got hurt that game. He played the first half and got hurt. But what I wanted to check was if Graham. Okay, so because Rozier smashed that game, so I wanted to see. It's interesting to me because I don't think Graham did as well.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. When these guys played, yeah, Graham had a bad game. He had a really bad game. That's interesting. I think I may make some moves.
Was Gary Harris there?
That's a good question. I don't. No, he was out. That does make a difference. He's obviously one of the better guard defenders.
Yeah.
Horn.
Yeah, I mean, did they play what's his name? The other really good guard defender that comes off the bench.
They played Torrey Craig. Yeah, Craig.
He played big minutes.
26. He didn't close very much. He played a lot of the third quarter, a lot of the first quarter, some of the second. He didn't play very much in the fourth. But it does look like they kind of bailed. That game eventually blew out, and they kind of bailed.
Yeah. So they probably put him on Graham and Murray on Rozier.
Yep. Starting lineups are as expected for the Nuggets: Murray, Harris, Barton, Millsap, Jokic, and for the Hornets, Graham, Rozier, Bridges, Washington, and Zeller. So nothing out of the ordinary there. Pretty much as expected. Let me see. What do we do here? I'm going to have to make some adjustments to Devontae Graham real quick because it's giving me way too much of him. Way more than I'm comfortable with. And Dude, I anticipate him to be pretty damn popular. It's the first game. He is underpriced. I'll acknowledge that. So it's not a pricing issue. It's just more of like, I just know he's going to be so popular that, if I'm going to play chalk, I'd rather let it be Westbrook or Harden or something than, a guy in a shitty game in what could be a tough matchup, or it should be a tough matchup. I guess depending on who they give him to. All right, let's see what we're getting here. We still got plenty of time. I'm dying for this Raptors news, but at the same time, I guess it's kind of good that we don't have it just yet because maybe that'll keep the ownership a little bit lower. But
yeah, you'd rather that come out after.
If the Raptors win tonight, I think they clinch a playoff berth.
Yeah, it's about that
time. So maybe some extra motivation. Hopefully we get some guys out. Montrezl Harrell won't have a minutes limit. I didn't even know that was a thing.
Yeah, I didn't know he
had one either. I guess he hurt his ankle or something. No, we'll see what we do. I'm gonna answer some questions I'm gonna ask some questions in the meantime while we wait for some of this news to come in. That's really all we could do at this point. Is just wait for the news and sit there with the D and the A and the D and the H, whatever you wanna, whatever your preference is, and we don't judge. But yeah,
definitely not.
No. Who are we to judge anyone? Nobody, bro. Fucking nobody's, bro. All right, let me pop up in this bitch. Boom. Shout out to GQ Rock 007. Glad you could make it, my man. Marco says Paulie needs a Miller. Somebody give Paulie a beer. Yeah, Paulie needs a beer to wake him up. Let's go. Thoughts on Patrick Beverly? I know you talked about him, but just hook Marco up and give me some thoughts.
No, I like it. I think he plays more minutes than he has at all recently because of the opponent. They need defenders against guards. He's their best guard defender. He's been back enough games where they could play him more minutes. Like they just took Harrell's minute limit off, and he actually had one that bad. I don't see why they can't go 25 or 30 minutes.
Yeah, and I was kind of looking at it like we saw the Knicks do it, right? Like, because Houston is so guard dominant, they pulled Elf in 19 minutes, and they played Frank Nitti, a guy who they weren't really playing much because they needed the defense. So Pat Bev is by far their best guard defender.
And when he has his bigger games, it's because he rebounds really well, and like this is a spot where he could go grab 8-10 rebounds if he gets the minutes.
Agreed. What else we got here? Hernan Gomez or Gordon on DraftKings from Just Roll?
Hernan Gomez.
Yeah, Hernan Gomez. I just think he's got the better ceiling right now, to be honest. Chris. Chris, hook me up with the last name. Robadu. Hook me up, Chris, with that pronunciation of that last game. I'll get to it. Jabari Parker. Do you think he plays?
No.
I don't see. I agree. I just don't see why he would, unless there was some kind of injury, right? Like in game, which you wouldn't be able to predict, or if they announced it. But I agree. I just don't see why all of a sudden now he would play. Marco says thoughts on Chris Boucher for value.
Only if somebody's out. You know what I mean? Like if Ibaka's in, and I just don't think he gets enough time unless it's a blowout. Like he's fine, but if Ibaka's out, you're gonna want a bit more of him. Like if Ibaka's in, he's like a 15 to 25% kind of guy.
Yeah, I agree. I can't disagree on that one. Let me just find Millsap real here again. That's the situation. That's why I'm so tempted to try to reserve some shares of Toronto because really, like we're looking for an edge so badly. Like that could be it right there in front of our face. A different game. Raptors have some motivation, and to be honest, without Van Fleet and without Ibaka and without Gasol, the Raptors haven't looked so hot. Like they think about it. The Suns took them to the limit. Like they just haven't looked all that great. So again, that's kind of where I'm kind of hanging my hat and just hoping I'm able to pull that off in some fashion. I'll pop in the chat in a second. Just want to make an adjustment to Millsap's projection right quick because I don't agree with what I see all day. All right, let me pop back in here. Devontae Graham will start. We get it. Hit that like button, guys, if you haven't already. I see a bunch of you just piled in a little bit late here. Appreciate y'all being here. We're here to make sure you're updated with all the news that comes out up until lock. So please hit that like button. It really goes a long way. Helps us out. What's the injury news? I missed everything. Had work, just got up. Bro, Arizona Drama says that. We haven't gotten too much yet. Devontae Graham is in. As of right now, I don't think we have some questionable pieces, but a lot of it comes from Toronto, and we may not know that by the time this slate locks. But I'll go over the quick list that we have right now. Let me just find that shit up in here. Damn. Where the hell? Oh, here we go. Devontae Graham, we know, is in. Draymond Green is questionable. Fred VanVleet is questionable. Marcus Saul is questionable. Serge Ibaka is questionable. De'Aaron Fox is probable. Corey Joseph is probable. So we are still waiting on the Toronto guys and Draymond Green at this point to answer the injury question. Arizona Drama says that boy Whiteside got it done for me last night. Smashed the slate. Yep, him and Porzingis went ham. He is a beast. Dwayne James says he's a beast. He is definitely a beast. Did you hear? Oh, by the way, yeah, I see a couple people talking about this. DJ Sheezy, I see your question. I'll ask it in a second. But Solo D, the Lakers signed Dion Waiters. That is a good point. Did you see Dion?
Yeah. Great pickup for them. They need it.
Yeah.
They got no scorers outside of LeBron and AD, and like, what if one of them is in foul trouble and they double team the other? Like, they need a scorer off the bench for that. Their second unit's terrible.
And also, Deion Waiters can get all the gummies he wants now because it's legal there. So he's good to go. You know what I mean? Just don't take too many. He had a little freak out on the plane, but you can get him all he wants, and it's all good. Not even breaking the law. DJ CZ, how do you feel about Kyle Lowry and Eric Paschal?
Paschal, I'm lower on. I think with Curry playing, you'll probably see Draymond play. So that really hurts Paschal. Even if Draymond is out, Curry's going to absorb a lot of usage, and you're not going to see Paschal getting up anywhere near the shot attempts. So who's the other guy you asked about?
Kyle Lowry.
Yeah, so, they're nowhere near the same price tag, but, Kyle Lowry by a lot.
It wasn't an or. He just wanted to know what you thought about those players.
So I'm not into Paschal very much. And then I'm not that into Lowry, but, like, he's all right. You know what I mean? Like, his floor is high. Raw points are going to matter today. If, I wouldn't fault anyone for getting, some exposure to him. He's been awesome. I think I'd like Fred VanVleet to be out, but even so, like, he's fine.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'd like to see VanVleet out. If he's in, you still have a shot, but his price is really uncomfortable. 8.6 is just it's an uncomfortable price for a player like him. Let me ask you this. Would you rather take a shot on him with the situation as is, kind of guessing, or Pascal Siakam?
On Lowry or Siakam?
Yeah, if you were going to take a chance on one of these guys, not knowing the news. Because on FanDuel, that's how you have to do it. You're pretty much taking a chance if you want to come here.
Yeah. I'd go Siakam.
Yeah. I'm so tempted to, like, project these guys, like, as if all those guys are still out. Cause, I mean, that's an edge right there, man. Like, Norman Powell, I know his price is elevated, but look what he's been doing in this role. And, like, today, everybody's going to be afraid to play him. Even if VanVleet plays.
Golden State is going to be significantly faster paced with
Agreed.
It happened last year. When he was out, they were like bottom 5 slowest. When he was in, they were top 5 fastest.
100% agree. That's the game that the more I think about it, the more I'm like, man, I think that's where we want to be. I mean, OG Anunoby, who didn't play well last time, but has been on a tear before that. If they do play faster, that could lead to more steals for a guy like him. So I'm very interested in this Toronto team. I still like the Philly. I'm just looking for any way. Don't get me wrong. I am going to play Westbrook and Harden. I'm going to have exposure to that Clippers game, but I'm just looking for where I can find an edge. And right now, that's kind of where I can see the path of it happening, right? Toronto's going to be motivated. They have not been as good. Golden State, even if Curry plays 25 minutes, that's 25 minutes of that game. They should be a little bit better. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully the game stays competitive. Sure. The home crowd is going to be buzzing because Curry's back. You know that. They're going to be buzzing. Toronto has a chance to lock up a playoff berth here. So that's the game I'm kind of honing in on. And I'm trying to, like, responsibly do it because we don't have the news. So once it happens, if we may not get the news until fucking 10 o'clock. And then you just have one game left. And I'm going to have to make the best of it with that. But at the same time, on a 4-game slate, man, trying to find an edge. Anyway, I can't. I mean, if Serge, say Gasol is out, and Gasol is the one I expect to be out because he just started becoming questionable. Usually they're questionable for a few days before they finally come back. But say Ibaka is in. At 6K against Golden State, he's probably one of the best center plays on the board.
True that.
Golden slate. You know what I mean? So I'm trying to, again, it's hard to do it without the news. And One thing I definitely want to do is make sure I'm not too crazy vested in that first game, because that's what could really take things away and limit my opportunity if I get things too locked up too early. Charlotte with that Denver Joe. We got 15 minutes to lock. Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get that news. What are your thoughts on Will Barton, bro? His minutes have been up and down. He hasn't been all that efficient.
Yeah, at the beginning, I love Will Barton. I love the way he plays the game, and like I would love him to be on the Knicks. In Denver, he really gets pushed to the side. They let Murray get usage over him. Jokic, Millsap. When they're healthy, it's like harder for him to like get usage. They pulled him off and closed with other guys for defense because they got plenty of offense. So like you need like the right game script to happen. I think it's more blowout run than anything else. But his usage when he's on the court points to a guy you want to play at these prices. So he's somebody I'm willing to get up to 40% of, and like, I'm not putting in a rule, but I'd prefer him to kind of be alone than like paired with Jokic and Murray. Like, I don't think he's going to get a smash game like with those guys. I think it's going to be like the game blows out and he gets some run on the court like with the second unit and gets a lot of usage and just kind of ceilings out that way.
Yeah, no, I feel you. I think that makes sense. 6:45, 15 minutes to lock, nation. Got to make those moves, make them good. Long and hard, like the Mafia. Long and hard, like the Mafia. Let's go here. We'll do this section. Let's see what we got. See what we're working with here. Again, I'm just trying to make sure that, like, I had to over project Curry to get some of him as well. Obviously, the projection sample we have is actually from last year. I mean, a small sample of this year. So I'm gonna keep that in mind. And his usage, just without all those other guys, no KD, no Clay, it's just redonkulous. So let's see how I can make this work. Let's see how I can make this work. And the only Raptor that I'm getting a little more Curry now, which I'm cool with. The only Raptor though I seem to be getting is Fred VanVleet. It just doesn't want to give me any of those other guys. Siakam. Where you at, Siakam? Siakam. See, that's the other part of it, man. He started at center against Phoenix. Like, that was pretty big. He ended up smashing. That was pretty glorious. I mean, he's 9-1 today. That is very expensive. Shit, alright then. Shit. I mean, I guess VanVleet Powell would be the main one, and then Ibaka and OG would be the ones. Oh dear. All right, let me pop back in the chat. 13 minutes to lock, nation. I'm popping the chat real quick. GQ Rock 007 says, rank your value plays.
Glenn Robinson the third. Willie Hernan Gomez. What's his name? Mike Scott, Pat Bev, Cody Martin, Jalen McDaniels.
Sure enough. I keep my hand on my gun because they got me on the run. All right, let's see. Maybe I put you a little too high, my dude. And even you a little too high, my dude. All right, let's keep it rolling in this thing. Lou Will or Pat Bev on FanDuel for tournaments?
Pat Bev.
Yeah, I'd go Pat Bev too at this point. Just roll. What are your projections on House? I'll take a look for you. Let's see.
I like House.
I put him at 30 minutes. He projects for about 5.48x, 21.94. Obviously, that's conservative. His minutes have varied. He's played more than 30. He's played less than 30. So I'm fine with him as a value play. I know it doesn't sound pretty, but on this slate, none of them really do. So that's actually not a bad projection for him at all. Here's another question for you, Paulie. Robinson or Scott for Philly?
Robinson.
Yeah, I like them both. It's a tough call. For me, I think I have more Scott slightly because he's a little cheaper. It's easier to get in, but they are two of my highest value plays right now. Those two guys specifically. How much PJ Tucker you playing, bro?
So I just crunched. I got 23%.
Yeah. Fucking PJ Tucker.
But he's like a nice throw-in if you're stacking that game to, you know. If it's close, he's going to get a ton of minutes, you know, and shoot some threes, get some rebounds. He usually shows up in these kind of games.
Yep. How much Giles you got? That's a question from me.
Let me check, but I want between like 30 and 50 of him. I do like this.
Yeah, me too. I mean, we saw Anthony Davis just slice these guys up, and they're not willing to play any. They don't have any other bigs. It's got Horford, who doesn't like to play center, and has said that several times throughout his career. After that, they didn't want to play Kyle O'Quinn at all. So when Horford's not on the court, what are they doing? They're just going really small. That North Pele dude only got I don't even know, but very, very little minutes.
Minute? 3 minutes? Yeah, it's weird.
Strange. So I am with you on that. I'm going to raise him up a little bit. And I think he's going to be extremely low on. He's obviously a risk, but so is everybody, right? What we do.
I like Marquez Chris, too, in that same vicinity. Like, he's a bit more expensive. Right. But, like, Curry's going to benefit him. A good passer and, like, someone that they got to focus on and that they'll, like, play the pick and roll with. And they'll both go to Curry to fuck with his outside shot. Chris could benefit. You know what I mean? And I think Dragon Bender's history. Yeah. So
he signed. He signed another contract. But if Draymond's in and Steph is here, Bender's. I don't see that dude getting on the court.
History.
Yeah, exactly. I just don't seize it. Yeah. 9 minutes to lock, nation. Make them decisions. Waiting for the news, but I don't think we're gonna get the Toronto news. I'm trying my best to kind of find myself some room. I'll have some flexibility. The key is just not to get too crazy vested in the early games, I guess. So that you have some room to make those moves. Patches is in trouble. I hear him getting yelled at. Uh-oh. Patches is in trouble, man. He's eating on the shoes, man.
Cuddy.
Can't be doing that. Can't be eating people's shoes. People get mad about that shit.
He was a bad mother sucker. Patches.
Oh yeah, man. Eating shoes all day. There's some people out there that would kill you for stepping on his shoes, let alone eating them. Is Tobias Harris worth paying up for? He did awful against the Lakers. I like him a lot. Let me see. He did awful. Yeah, okay. I'm playing Devontae 3 grams from Kyle. Totally get it. Price is good. Arizona drama. Will Wiggins drop now that Curry is back?
Drop what? Like in ownership or play?
I think he just means like his play. Like, will he drop?
Yeah, honestly, I don't think so. Like, I think this is going to be like a situation where Curry elevates everybody.
Is he going to play the Klay Thompson role and just stand in the corner and take all the threes in the world when it comes to him? Just come and boom, just fire away?
No, I think Jordan Poole's going to play that role. I think he's going to play like the Kevin Durant role.
Ooh, it's pretty big shoes to fill, literally. We got a question in the Wisestream chat from JFoul84. Millsap or Giles on FanDuel? That's a good question because they're both, I think, similarly priced over there.
I say Giles.
Giles is going to have the lower ownership. That is 100% sure. Where are we here? Back to the Wisestream chat. Robinson or Scott for Phil? Oh, that was another question that we had in the YouTube. Moose, was that you in the YouTube chat? The same question, but I think you said Robinson, right? Matt M says, could you fade the first game entirely and still do good on the slate? The Denver game, I don't really want to touch it. What do you think?
I think definitely. I think you could fade any game on this, any one game on this slate, you do really well. So,
Agreed. No disagreement for me today, anyway. The plays. You like Shake Milton, bro? That's another one from me.
Yes, I do.
Shaky.
I like Al Horford better, but he's my third. I like Philly a lot. The more I'm like talking this out.
Yeah. I'm in the same boat. I like Philly and Toronto. Those are really the teams that I'm like. And the good thing is, I should get the news by the time I get to Philly. So if I have a lot of space reserved for these for Philly and Toronto, then I'll be able to make those pivots when necessary. So I'm with you, bro. I'm in that same boat. I mean, I'm looking at center, man. Center is weak as shit today, and it looks like PJ Tucker. People might play him by default just because you could play him at center and call it a night. And that just sounds grimy, real grimy. Just dirty burgers up in here. All right, move some shake. Let me see if I raised enough. We got about 5 minutes to lock, so this is probably going to be the final little build right here, and I'm just have to rock.
Who are you looking at as your highest known players today?
It's Scott and Robinson, Harden, and Westbrook. Those 4 players are all coming in around 60-something%, and it worked out good because I didn't even actually have to cap it. It's just that's just where it is because it's so tight, So yeah, the value from Philly with Harden and Westbrook, which I'm comfortable with. I mean, raw points are going to matter. It's hard to envision them not factoring in, at least on a raw point scale. But I'll let you know the updated one right now. I was getting some, I obviously like 50% of Tobias Harris, so he would be next on that list for me. I'm getting a lot of Millsap and Giles, Van Fleet again, and I'm ready to make some pivots where need be with that. So do what I got to do. I'm getting a lot more Shake Milton now. How much Shake Milton would you be comfortable playing yourself?
Like 40.
Yeah. Oh, that's a lot. Yeah.
I'm sorry though. I've blocked you out there. Who'd you say your top 5 were going to be?
Right now, I have a lot of Mike Scott, Glenn Robinson, Harden, Westbrook, Millsap, Tobias. I gave you 6.
Yeah.
I gave you 6.
Yeah, same here.
Is what it is. Michael Scott. $656. Scott. Let's see what that does. Let's roll it. Here we go. Let's see what we get. Oh, what did I do? No, I guess it's not that bad.
Would you rather pair a Harden and Westbrook together or Harden or Westbrook with Kawhi?
Harden or Westbrook together or Harden and Westbrook with Kawhi?
Yeah, Harden or Westbrook. Kawhi or Harden and Westbrook.
I guess honestly, it's just gonna sound kind of crazy, but I think I'd rather have Harden and Westbrook together. Like I'm having more Harden and Westbrook already than So I guess that would be my answer because I have more than them both than I have of Kawhi and PG. It's even on a scale basis. Here. All right, 3 minutes to lock. Let me just punch this in. I'm just gonna let the rest ride. Let's see. Okay.
Hey, my computer didn't die.
Hey, it's too early to be saying that, man.
No, I'm pretty in.
Okay. All right, we in there. We in there like swimwear.
All right,
we in there. All right. I'm good. So let's hear your highest owned players, exposed players.
All right, let's do that. Chitty bang bang. Russ number 1 at 67%. Tobias Harris number 2 at 63%. Terry Rozier number 3 at 51%. Buddy Hield number 4 at 39%. Glenn Robinson number 5 at 38%. Jamal Murray, Harry Giles, Kawhi, Al Horford, Willie Hernan, Miles Bridges, Jalen McDaniels, James Harden at 27%.
I like it, bro. And we've got, what, a minute to lock at the moment? 1 minute to lock, nation. Do the dirty. And then do the dirty again. Do it and do it big. Do it big, then we're going to do it big, then. How much Pat Bev did you play, bro?
38%.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to make an adjustment after lock so I don't have to freak out. But I'm getting a little too much for my comfort with him. I like him, don't get me wrong. But I think right now I'm showing up at 60. I don't really want to be above 40 with him because obviously he has been struggling lately. Foul trouble is, of course, a concern. So where is the Dirty Burger? We are at Lock, though, Nation. That is going to do it for us at this moment. Appreciate those of you that hung out with us, rock with us. Hopefully, sorry we didn't get the Toronto news, but if you're on DraftKings, be ready to react. On FanDuel, take comfort on if you took any chances with Toronto, so did everyone else over there. That's going to do it. Hit that like button on your way out. We appreciate y'all. We'll be back at it tomorrow for the last show of the week, and then we'll pick it back up the following week. So subscribe, hit the like button. For Paulie D, for myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.